Hey everybody, I'm back. Okay, one of my earlier videos, I think about a week or two ago, I'd mentioned about taking the jet unit off, to help clear obstructions and stuff like that. And I know you've heard in a couple other videos, you heard me talk about when I was stationed in Missouri. Well, it's another story for you. I was in Missouri, and it was just after a storm. We headed up to the lake. It was a couple days after the storm, but it was a pretty big one. And a lot of the debris, trees, shit just blown into the lake, and it was just floating everywhere. And it was big, like, I call it a platform because there was so much crap. You couldn't get around it. I mean, you had to go through it. And yeah, I just didn't fare well. So as it turns out, I sucked up a piece of wood. It was probably about that big. It was a good chunk, man. It was like a piece of a branch, but it was enough to wedge itself in between the impeller and the wall. It didn't do any damage, but that shit wasn't coming out at all. So I had to go all the way back to the ramp on one motor, and it just ruined my day. So I called the dealer, which at that point, was about an hour and 45 minutes from my house. And they wanted like $150 an hour. So I told them I'll think about it. So I came out to the boat, and I was just staring at it, trying to figure out a way to take this thing apart without screwing something up. And it turns out it's really not that hard. It's actually pretty darn simple. It surely is not worth, $150 an hour. So, it's kind of like a motorcycle. It's not if you're going to lay it down or get in an accident. It's just a matter of when. And unfortunately, with us, jet boaters, it's just a matter of when. So, I'm going to kind of show you here. I've already got it started, but I'm going to kind of walk you through how to take it apart. It's pretty easy. So, let me work this camera here. So, as you look from the back here, right behind this little propulsion unit, you got this screw here. You got the one down below it, back in there. That one, and then again the one down below. Now, those four, I've already got them started. You can see it's kind of loose. I already got them out there. Those four come out, and this whole unit right here separates. And I'll show you here in a second. See if I can get it. I got a little tiny tripod I'm using today, and it's the wind is actually blowing it over. So let me see if I can work this here. So once you get these out, and be careful, because they're in there pretty good, because they use Loctite and stuff like that, which I'll go over to. You need to use that when you put it back in. So the last part of this deal here, I got this loose. You got to take off the steering mechanism. Okay, now be careful, because you'll notice in here is a little plastic piece. It stays in this unit. There's two of them. Okay? Make sure you get those out and don't lose them. It just kind of helps, kind of like a lubricant, lack of a lubricant, but just makes it run smooth. Set those aside. Now this is all broken apart now. Okay? These big old bolts are out, and you can see they're long bolts. Okay? And you can see on mine there's salt and shit like that. Threads look good. And when you put these in, before you put them back in, you should clean them off with like a wire brush, because you don't want to get any crud back into those threads. So, and I'll go over that here in a little bit. So you take these four big ass bolts out carefully. And then you just kind of work it. Yeah, I forgot to take off that damn. There it is. So now, the throttle still, you can still keep that on there. Just be careful with it. But this is enough where you can get in here and start pulling shit out if you need to. It's real easy. I'm going to set this down. Hang on one second. Okay, I'm back. Let me make sure you can still see in that thing. Okay, so once you get this here, my hands are getting slimy, that's why I broke off. This piece here, this is part of the vortex that's created when the impeller goes off. This thing is on there pretty good. You might have to, like, I don't suggest hammers or anything like that. Maybe a rubber mallet if you need to. But you can just kind of bang it, and you can see it comes loose. This is attached to your impeller. Okay? Like, you can see everything's coming out. I don't want to take everything out just because I don't need to, but the actual impeller is starting to come out along with this piece. It's all attached in here. So if you ever get like a bad impeller or anything like that, but this is how you can get some of your shit out. If you get something stuck in those blades, you can see the blades back in there. You know, it's coming right out with that headpiece, that cone piece right there. So that's how you get the stuff out, you know. And I mean, it's scary. You know, it's a scary project to do. You know, when you put that in there, on the end of your impeller shaft, you've got teeth, and you know the corresponding teeth are on the other end inside. So when you put it back in, you got to be careful, make sure the teeth line up, and just carefully slide it back in there until it meets. Now, while I got this open, I want to show you something. Let me see if you get that little piece of white shit in there, that little grate looking thing. It's kind of hard to see. That is where the water is injected into the into the engine, the cooling element. Okay? So, now I've noticed a few times I've had here in Florida where we'll be cruising along and then we'll stop. You know, the last time it happened, we ran into a big school of dolphins. So, we stopped to watch them. Well, it was like, I don't know, maybe 45 seconds. My hot engine alarm just starts screaming. I was like, what the f? So I did some research, and it was really clear water. So I jumped in the water to see what the hell was going on, and this thing was filled with seaweed. Not damaging at all whatsoever, but that little grate right there, that little white grate, was just covered in freaking seaweed. So, no big deal, because I was in neutral, just kind of floating around, and it was just, because it was still turning and shit, the seaweed wasn't getting blown out. So I shut the motor off. Obviously that's what you're supposed to do if you get an overheated engine. Shut it off, let it sit for a minute, and when you fire it back up, it just blows all that stuff. It was stuck in there because the suction was just keeping it there. And that's it. And that's where the water goes in to cool the engine. Now, here's the other side of that thing. You'll see this little square piece right here. This is the cover for that water intake. So if you do honestly get something sucked up in there, this is a second place where you can look. Take these little 4 screws off. I think they're like 6 or 7 millimeters, maybe 8. And you pull that off, and you'll be able to see if there's anything stuck in there. If you're still getting overheated engines and there's nothing in here, then that's when you take it in to get it worked at. Because that means there could have been something way back up in there that got sucked up, or you just got some other engine issues. So, my legs are falling asleep. So, anyway, that's the skinny. That's how you take care of this stuff, man. This is, you know, I took these, the longest part of this whole project is taking those bolts out. Because you got to be careful when you're doing that. Because, you know, it's, you got to get to it. So, you know, with these, when you got to try to make sure you maintain constant pressure, because you don't want to kink it, because you can cross thread stuff like that when you're taking it out and get so much torque on it. But those big ass bolts are 14 millimeters. That little one that we took off on the steering mechanism was an 11 millimeter. So I took off all this shit, man, in, you know, 10 minutes. So if you need to get in there, that's how you do it. One more thing I want to show you guys. And I didn't know this, but a lot of people don't. this little piece of aluminum right here, it's just a chunk of solid aluminum. This helps fight corrosion for some scientific bullshit. I don't know what it is, but it helps any kind of corrosion or stuff that causes corrosion. This is on there because it attracts it to this instead of the rest of the components. So make sure you keep that clean, you know, throughout the boating experience, throughout the life of your boat, stuff like that. Make sure you keep that stuff clean, because that's important. So, okay, I'm gonna quick dry off my hands. I got some oil and stuff on there, and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I'm back. Now, these bolts, remember I said clean them off. I just use a drill with a wire brush and just kind of go around, clean out those threads. I mean, it's really that easy. Nothing too scientific, you know. And that's it. Just paper towel, get all the rest of the crap off, you know. But when you get ready to put these back in, now here's a story. Actually, don't skip forward here. Loctite. If you don't have Loctite or thread tight, whatever everybody calls it, put that on there. Just top, let it ooze down, and then you put it back in there and you tighten it down. Now, here's what I was going to tell you. For those of you that are mechanics, you all understand torque pressures. There is a certain torque that you're supposed to put on there, and those of you that don't know anything about that, this is a torque wrench. And if you can see, there's like measurements on there. So whatever the torque is, how many pounds, you just kind of set it. You turn this to set it, and when you're tightening it, it clicks, it pops. It's got a clicker in there that pops when you get to the appropriate torque pressure. Now, I don't know what it is. Frankly, I really don't care, because, you know, I've been doing enough stuff to where I'm not going to sound arrogant, but I kind of know between what I tighten it and the thread lock, it's not going to go anywhere. But I tried the dealer here in town, and they wouldn't tell me. They said because it takes business away from them. I thought that was pretty chicken shit. So I called 2 other dealers within about 70 miles of here. They also told me the same thing. So I don't know what the torque ratio is. I can't tell you. So if you all find out, call your dealers, ask them what the torque pressure is on this jet unit, and share it with the rest of us. That'd be great. But for the purposes of this, I'm not going to use my torque wrench, but I wanted to show you. And this is like, I think it was like 40 or 50 bucks. I don't remember where I got it. I think I got it at Lowe's or some shit. I don't know. But other than that, this is how you take off that rear jet unit, and you get shit out of there. Now, if you have to take everything off, let me see. If you have to get everything out of the way, your steering mechanism, your throttle here, there's just 2 screws on each side. That's it. You just take these 2 off on both sides, and then this whole thing just comes off. Just make sure you pay attention to how it looks when it's all in there, so you put it back the right way. That's it. Or you can take these 2 off. Doesn't matter. Either one works great. So, like right now, it's just hanging. Ain't doing no damage. And that's just kind of how it sits. So when you put it back in there, just line everything up and it pops back in. Now watch that shit fall. But that's it. Then you put the bolts in, tighten it all down, you put your steering mechanism back on. Yeah, it's really easy. So that's how you take this shit apart, man. I'm telling you, a lot of these dealers, you know, they got to stay in business and shit like that, and I get it. They charge all this stuff an hour. But, you know, if you're not comfortable doing this for yourself, by all means, go to the dealer, have them do it. Especially if your boat's still in warranty. Mine's not, so even if it was, I worked on this stuff when my boat was still in warranty. I'm just comfortable with it. So I hope I learned you something, as Marines sometimes say. So if there's anything else I can, you know, show you guys on these boats, if you got any more questions, let me know. You know, like I said, I've got a lot of time on my hands. I enjoy doing this kind of stuff. You know, it's a beautiful day out here in Florida. For those of you that are in cold areas, sorry, it's like 85 today. So I hope this helps. Yeah, and that's it. So if y'all run into something, just be careful. You'll know it, especially if it's a piece of wood. It screeches like an AC belt on a car, and you'll definitely feel the loss of power because it just kind of it struggles. So so yeah, I hope. Actually, you know what? Before I go, I'll put this one screw in that I cleaned, so you can. Somebody that's never done this before. So I clean this one off. So this is how I do it. I just get just like that. Okay, just kind of let it drip into the threads. You can, and once you get it inside of there, it'll start spreading it around. Let's see if I can make sure I get. There. I'll put this one in first. There you go. Now, you don't want to let it sit very long because that Loctite does dry. But when you're putting this on, don't get it too tight because you got to put the other four in, and it's just like a spare tire on a car. You want to go side to side. So do the top one here, and then the bottom on the opposite side, and top over here, and the bottom on the other side. In there just enough. So okay folks, so that's it. I think my period of instruction is over for today. I'm going to put this thing back together. So I hope I answered some questions. Hope I taught you something. If anybody has any questions about this or anything else on the boat, please let me know, and if I can do it, I'll try to put a video out there for you to kind of help you out. So I hope none of you have to do this, but if it does, at least you're going to be somewhat prepared. So I'm done. Y'all have a great day.